Great, welcome everybody. I would like to say thank you for you joining us today in the final webinar of our TExTOUR project. If you allow me to share my screen, Silvia, part of our team is here with us and they are going to present their part. It's very important for us that you are here because basically we want to share our main achievements in relation to the deployment of cultural tourism based on cultural heritage in not so well-known areas, in the hope that if you are also trying to do something like that locally, you could also use some of our methodology or services. Hence, the agenda for today's meeting is very simple. Our colleagues from UNIBO will start with the methodology. Then our colleagues from Uninova will describe the platform and services we are providing. Our colleagues from CATIF will take you through the monitoring process we put in place. And we have the great chance of having some of our pilots sharing with you their experiences as cultural tourism labs. In this case, our colleagues from Umge and Rivne in Ukraine. I want to make a stop here and say that we are very happy that our colleagues from Ukraine can join us in this webinar, but they are having some technical issues. So if they lose the connection while it's their turn, we might come to them later. So please help us go through that as well. After our City Lab experience, our colleagues from ICONS will go through the results analysis of our upscaling and exploitation process. And we have the great chance of having with us Joan Martins from TExTOUR to provide us a keynote on the project that he led, as said, TExTOUR. At the end, we will go through a question and answer session. So if you have questions, I would like to suggest all of you to start writing them on the chat, and our colleague Nicola will take you through this. So with no further ado, I want to say thank you again, and we leave the floor to our colleague Katerina, who will take you through the methodology part.
Thank you, Lucia. Let me get to my presentation. There we go. Good morning, everyone. As Lucia mentioned, my name is Caterina Selva, and I'm a research fellow at the University of Bologna. Today, I will briefly present you a short, informative capsule on the TExTOUR guidelines for cultural tourism development. So in particular, we will see together the methodology to achieve sustainable cultural tourism development. And you can find an extended version with much more detail of this presentation delivered by Dorothea Ottaviani, a colleague of us, on the TExTOUR website. So if you want to find more details, please, I encourage you to go and explore that. So this is a 7-step methodology, and it's divided into 3 phases. As you can see, the methodology goes from a first step of establishing a community of stakeholders, then goes through a phase of co-definition of cultural tourism strategies, and then finally to a step of implementation of these activities that have been co-developed with a community of stakeholders. So the first phase is the participatory establishment. And this means that it includes step 1, which aims at establishing a community of stakeholders that are involved throughout all the process. So this is realized through the stakeholder engagement. It's an activity that includes stakeholders identification, so understanding who to involve, as well as analyzing and prioritizing them. And the process time estimated for these activities goes from 1 month, but also throughout the entirety of the project. And this is to ensure inclusivity within the project. The second phase is the one of co-defining cultural tourism strategies. The first step of this phase, which is the second step of the whole methodology, is to identify the local strengths and the heritage resources. So this activity lasts for about 2 weeks, and it's performed through a mapping workshop that has as an outcome a map of strength and resources of the territory, as well as a set of shared common goals that emerge from the different stakeholders that are involved in the process and that might have a different understanding of things. The third step of the methodology is the establishment of an action plan. And this step has a duration of about 2 weeks, and it's also carried out through a workshop. Its aim is for the pilot coordinator and the participants to the workshop to select and create a first set of action that are based on shared goals that emerged in the previous step of the methodology. And this action can be either inspired by a pre-made selection of good examples or good practices of sustainable heritage tourism, or can be completely new. And what is important to underline is that the workshop really encourages reflection on aspects that are very important for TExTOUR. So reflection on social innovation, on technological innovation, on sustainability, and on inclusion, so that in the end we can select 3 to 6 actions to carry on to the next phase and to the next step. So the first step of the methodology is to define a sustainable business model. And this step consists in a workshop as well and lasts for about 2 weeks. The aim of this step is to really truly support the viability, including, for example, the financial one, of the action that have been selected and have been to be put in the action plan. And this happened through the filling in of a business model canvas, which has been adapted specifically to focus on aspects at the core of the TExTOUR project and that are really truly important for a smart and sustainable inclusive development of cultural tourism. Step 5 of the methodology is establishing a way to follow up and also to self-evaluate the action plan. These steps last for about 2 weeks. It's again a workshop, and it aims at supporting the replicators in defining feasible and also relevant targets and KPIs. KPIs are key performance indicators, and we'll hear more through this webinar about that can be achieved through the proposed action and that are also used to evaluating and monitoring the impact of the action plan. Finally, the last step of the second phase, so step 6, it's defining the final action plan. This step requires about a week of work, and finally it allows to achieve a finalized action plan throughout the filling in of a template, a model by the pilot coordinator. And this step basically summarizes all the information that were gathered at the previous stages of the co-defining of these strategies into an organized plan that also includes time estimation, budget estimation, and responsibility, and really take us towards the implementation phase. And finally, the third phase of the methodology is indeed the implementation phase. And step 7, which is the final step of the methodology, is to implement the activities of the action plan. And of course, the duration of this step depends on what has been established in the action plan. But anyway, it starts with the kickoff of the implementation of the action plan, and you can see here in milestone 7. And something very important you've seen through this presentation, some sort of advices or tips we have received from replicators. So I would just underline that it's important to leave room for changes in this phase, both to improve and polish and revisit the action at a later stage, but also to leave room for new collaboration as well as new challenges that might emerge during the implementation phase. So that was it on the methodology, and I thank you for the attention and for being here today. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Thank you so much, Caterina. This gives me the chance to leave the floor now to our colleague Pedro Pereira from Uninova, who will lead us through the platform and platform services. Pedro, maybe you are in mute.
For sure, Lucia, for sure. I'm really sorry for this. We have been practiced, and this happens in the not of correct moment. So let me start again. Just to, my name is Pedro from Uninova, and I will have the pleasure to briefly introduce you to TExTOUR platform, which aims to be an ICT tool to support the cultural tourism stakeholders in less known destinations. So I would say that the overall goal is to ensure that those less known destinations can benefit from a technological framework for a sustainable growth, both economic and social. So okay, so the platform will try to gather the smart strategies, as mentioned before, input from the city labs, and also inputs from the community labs. So this all together in the platform, plus some external data coming from similar projects and also from other sources, we will try to explore all this together in the platform and to assess the strategies defined by each pilot. So to do so, we need data that will be converted into indicators, KPIs, then methodologies, and at the end we will be able to assess the progress of the smart strategies. So what TExTOUR platform can do for cultural tourism? So the pillars for this platform are as the following. So first of all, we need data. Seems quite obvious, but it's true. We need data. What we do with this data, we transform into information and knowledge. Okay? After that, of course, the users, these cultural tourism stakeholders, they will have some questions. They will do monitoring and to ask some questions to, let's say, to platforms. So to do so, this question will be answered through the way of a graphical user interface, and this user interface will be fed by multiple data sources. One of them are the stakeholders, but we can have data from other external sources, and through several filters, we can adjust the answer to a proper question from the stakeholders. So then we have the monitoring and automatic monitoring system. What we do, we use an algorithm to, let's say, auto-analyze data sets to search for some, let's say, notable changes in data, something that could be not correct. So we also do some automatic computations to perform indicators and KPIs to help on the assessment of the strategies. And for sure, with these indicators, KPIs, and feedback from the stakeholders, we can have an overview of all the strategies implemented. So how does TExTOUR platform support these city labs? So what we did, we developed a platform. This is the landing page, what you are seeing. So we have 4 main menus: the pilot specific information, general information about each pilot, a manual, and also a set of tutorial videos that help either stakeholders or visitors to understand how the platform works. Okay, so as a main entrance, we have listed the TExTOUR pilots. As you can see here, we have Ficadu and Cyprus, Tarnowski Gori, Poland, Trebini, Bosnia-Herzegovina, and Beginnerland, Germany, amongst others. So we have implemented two types of services, what we call external services and internal services. The external services are the ones that will be, the result of these services will be visible for tourists, for visitors, and can be used by them. Amongst of these services, we have these points of interest, where each stakeholder can identify a point of interest and upload some description, images, videos, documents, just to give more information to visitors. So we have events, we have routes. Each stakeholder could identify or define a route and identify points of interest through these routes, just to support visitors and tourists when visiting those places. We have also local product promotion, as well as the visitor surveys, just to receive a feedback from the tourists about their experience in these places. From the internal service point of view, those services are, let's say, reserved for the stakeholders. What can they do? They can monitoring their actions through a set of KPIs, and also they can monitoring the budget they are spending in some actions, and to see in the end if these actions are being, I would not say profitable, but worthy for tourists, and if they have given an added value for this destination. So, but these are reserved for stakeholders, the users of the platform. So we also have integrated data coming from other sources. So if stakeholders could not have their own data, they can go to other sources at European or national or regional level, and to get this data to check how they are performing compared with other places, or and to see the progress of their actions. So about the strategy assessment, we have this kind of dashboard. So stakeholders can choose the action they want to check the progress. In this example, we have here the calendar of open air, and that is the events. Then you can check or select the KPI that you want to monitor, and you go further through this set of filters, and at the end you have a graphic with the progress of your action. Okay. Also similar for the budget that you have put at the beginning, if you have additional budget, and you can monitor the progress or the use of this budget. So to support either stakeholders or even visitors at the platform, we have 18 tutorial videos that help the users how to create points of interest, routes, events, surveys, but this also gives insight to visitors if they want to see how the platform is working. So, and just to conclude as a final remark, I just would like to highlight that at this moment, we have 7 external services running the platform. I would say that these 7 services are the ones that in let's say a common way were chosen by all the pilots. So we are thinking of integrating some more later on. We have 6 internal services, more dedicated for stakeholders, okay, like KPIs, the monitoring system, and so on. And we have implemented one dashboard, the MONAS, which means the monitoring as a service. So in a brief words, I think this is all about the platform. If you are interested to check it, please scan this QR code or just go to our website. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Pedro. I think it was a great explanation of what you folks have put in place. This brings back to what Katerina had said before about the implementation of the actions. So as you can see, everything goes together. The city labs or pilots, as we call them, have actions to be implemented. These actions are entered also with KPIs in the platform, and we have a process for monitoring them. This process will be explained by our colleague Pedro from Cardiff. So I give you the floor, Pedro.
Okay, thank you very much, Lucia. Thank you for this opportunity, especially for those who are attending online from outside the project. Let me put my glasses on because I do really see less and less. This short speech is about City Labs. City Labs has been mentioned previously, and it is framed. You check the web page of the project and ask things about the monitoring programs. They are framed toward package 5, City Labs. City Labs are cultural tourism labs. So the first things we need to do is just to define what is a City Lab. This is a pilot site or a territory becoming a living lab to deploy cultural tourism strategies. So simple as this. So in this short speech, I'm going to tell you a quite straight procedure just to keep trace of just monitor your implementation of cultural tourism plans or strategies. The strategies in all the city labs in the TExTOUR project are deployed in concrete actions that follow some activities. All monitoring programs are about gathering and analyzing data at action level according to these three premises, very important. First, to evaluate the effectiveness of the strategies while deploying the actions, pointing out their nexuses with economic growth and employment. Absolutely important, this link, economic growth and employment of the cultural tourism activities. This will be made based on methodological KPIs, key performance indicators. They are the most complex, let's say, the most complex issue of this work package are related to 57 different things we need to consider about cultural tourism strategies. And they are, as you can see in the table, they have related to a name, to a metrics, to a description, and they are gathered according to different categories related to cultural tourism, for instance, accommodations, facilities, infrastructures in the area, and so on. And also they are related to 4 categories, very important for the filtering of all the KPIs and relate them to the different activities to be deployed that are economical, cultural, environmental, and social issues. So all the city labs are requested to select no further than 15 KPIs for practical reasons, very much related to their not only the implementation of the strategies, but also their idiosyncrasy according to the territory or to the location. 30 of them are concordant with this territory, and other 2 ones are mandatory, absolutely important, that are the employment in tourist industry and the jobs creation in tourist industry, right? So the city labs are asked just to find these KPIs for 3 things. One, a baseline is just a starting point, a 0 measure for the KPIs to make a proper assessment of the evolution. Second, a goal value. This goal value is the realistic expected value to be achieved according to its actions to be deployed. And final, they are asked in the different monitoring campaign about the current value to measure the progress of the evolution of this KPI. Second important point is just to evaluate the deployment of those actions according to the calendar set up for the implementation. They are based on targets. Targets are established as in the previous speech in the cultural tourism participatory development strategies. So they are very much related to the different actions defined. So there is a target setting, as you can see in the table. Setting is just definition of the target in itself, and also a means of verification. So there are two ways of doing that. Just a figure, for instance, the number, as you can see in the first point of the table, the number of the training expected for about business on providing tourism services. And also could be just if this something is achieved or not, just a Boolean yes or no statement. For instance, if you have developed an inclusive website, full DOM involvement. And final, just keeping trace of additional funding sources. Additional funding sources mean if you have any kind of leverage effect on the deployment of your activities. They are also based on the participatory cultural and tourism development strategies and action plans. And it's very important to keep track if your strategies are important for somebody else outside the project. For instance, you have some kind of sponsorships or whatever. Finally, how we are developing this monitoring program. We develop a 6-month program, a special bilateral meetings and co-participatory issues regarding the establishment of the different activities per city labs. So it will take you this time 6 months to define such a kind of strategies with your pilot site if you want to test this approach. And just immediately afterwards, we started 3 monitoring campaigns, 3 sequential ones every 5 months. The 5 months are the minimum periods sensitive to keep trace of possible changes. It should be desirable at minimum of 6 or even 1 year, but there were no possibility to do so in the time frame of the project. So we are going to monitor these 3 levels, the implementation, just keeping trace of the targets, follow up the effectiveness of the actions by follow up the KPIs and all possible additional funding to check the leverage effect. So this triple level data for monitoring provides, and this we expect provides an innovative structure, organized and scalable way to gain insight into the deployment of cultural tourism activities performance. And it simplifies troubleshooting, enhances visibility, and allows for customization, making it a fundamental practice. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Pedro, for this explanation. As you have seen so far, we have talked or shared with you the theoretical part of our project. But of course, theory without practice doesn't make a lot of sense. So that's why we would like to share also with you some of the inputs from 2 of our 8 pilots. So I would like to give the floor to our colleague Uwe Ferber from Umgebindeland, who is going to explain you what they did in their city lab. Uwe, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Lucia. Could you see my screen? The screen is...
Yes, perfect.
Okay. Thank you very much from the outside world. So we are not so happy with the term of laboratory, because we are feeling that we are some of kind of pilot projects implementing the productive ideas coming from research, from the collaboration between research institutions and practitioners. And we worked very well over the last 3 years on different aspects of the methodology and different aspects of the actions plans, and have been very heavily supported by this network. Why it is important for the Umgebindeland to be in a horizon holistic network of collaboration. We are a 3 cross-border touristic region between Poland, Czech Republic, and Germany. So we have internal borders. We have very valuable architectural landscape and landscape heritage on one hand side, but you could imagine people are not perceiving automatically this as a value, because they are usually living in this beautiful area, but tourism is underdeveloped. So the idea of TExTOUR to develop cultural tourism was very important for us to get to more acceptance initiatives and activities in local communities, and specifically on deprived communities. So this was really for us a big opportunity to switch in the active activity to the touristic development, linked to the structural development of the 3 cross-border regions. In the collaboration with the stakeholder methodology and the TExTOUR methodology, we organized cross-border workshops with 3 languages, which is not so easy as it seems, but it worked very well by mobilizing small SMEs and small communities. And you could imagine, you maybe could not imagine, that many of these communities and initiatives never know from one to each other. So it was the first time that we come together in a very intensive discussion how to link these activities. And the methodology in the Umgebindeland was to focus on the idea of touristic roads. So to organize in a 3 border area, in a complete cross-border organization, touristic roads, by linking these small communities. What are the lessons learned? The lessons learned that the idea of touristic roads is a valuable idea, because it's a continuity over a long time, and you don't need so much input to maintain the activities of touristic roads, and it allows to get in towards informal institutional relationship between organizations and institutions without formal signatures, formal agreements. We focused on deprived communities by getting people which have no relation to touristing and to cultural tourism and specific to get to small offers of activities inside of these touristic roads. And the result and lessons learned might be that cultural tourism is really a catalyst for higher quality offers. You see the pictures. These are 2 craftworks institutions which are offering touristic products, but in handmade versions. And we have also some of these touristic offers with some new food and wine vineyards and beer services, so the typical touristical services, but this is a catalyst for cultural tourism over the long term. What is important for us, following the methodology of TExTOUR, we reached a stable network, a stable activity, and we have the initial idea we have the result to prepare these road activities, and we are promoting these roads, but we need to continue to get into continuity and try in this continuity to get towards for another ERDF, so European focused money for investments. You could see the new touristic roads, so 3 in the cross-border areas. Every road is feasible in 1 day time, so you could spend at least 3 days time as a cultural tourism. Is I think an appropriated timeline to be in the region. And we are very optimistic to get with the results of TExTOUR towards a new push on this cross-border cooperation on the touristic aspect, and to make Umgebindeland more well known in the European level and the European communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Uwe. We really appreciate you sharing with us your experience. I would like to give the floor now to our colleague Victoria from Ukraine, and we are very happy the connection is still working. So with no further ado, the floor is yours, Victoria. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you, Lucia. Can you hear me and see my screen?
Everything is perfect.
Thank you very much. Our pilot is called Via Regia, and our central task within the project was designing the idea on developing Via Regia route that comes along Rhine region. Honestly, when we started the work, we as a team were focused on primarily on the history and cultural heritage, like museums and castles and a kind of this, and our idea was circled around these solid objects, as it could be said. So the idea about creative cluster that is placed and focused on the natural territory was a little bit surprise for us, but I should say that we are very happy with the TExTOUR approach, participatory approach that actually helped us to see and to hear the true will of stakeholders. As you know, we started the project almost in 2022, and we have on our territory a lot of refugees who comes to us from the other regions coming away from the war, because we managed to involve them in the process of designing our idea, and found that indeed we need to focus our attention on the natural territories and then make them a central place for development of cultural tourism, because our society, our residents and our guests requires some kind of inspiration and inclusion, involvement in the social life of our territory and region. So what is actually the creative cluster, in the Dermany-Stroke Natural Park? Today, it's a way of popularizing natural heritage, but it's a platform around which all the cultural life is turned around in the region. It works like a center and like a generative center for joining different kind of activities, not only traditional routes, but also art, education, ecology, enterprise, and so on. To be precisely, I can list the services that are working today around the natural park. Ecological route, it's the most traditional way, but I want here to clarify a little bit. Ecological route, we mean here the route through the territory of national park, and you can see the image. We adapted this route for the needs of disabled people, because our refugees and our veterans and the target audience for whom we designed this idea require the inclusive infrastructure today, and we tried to do everything that they could feel comfortable themselves in when traveling and when connecting with our local cultural heritage. But that not least, ecological routes not only in the function, not only in the park. We have also a tourist route that were designed during the project through the collaboration with through building partnerships between natural park and the entrepreneurs, businesses, and cultural objects that are placed nearby. So we have some routes, for example, to the lavender field that are placed near the park. Lavender field also offer the route to the dairy farm, and tourists can choose for themselves whether they want to travel through only be in the national park, or they want to travel across all the objects which are partners of the national park and the member of our cluster. So we have a few kind of partnerships today, but national park are still working on developing this network. You can see that we are planning that park will function with continue with educational activities, tours for stakeholders, organizing different events and festivals, and promoting nature and culture around the territory. One thing I want to mention here on this slide that the activity of national nature park or cluster isn't isolated from, could it be seen that it's not only solely organize the events, but every participant could be every participant or visitor of the park could be as just visitor, so the co-creators of the event. So the creative cluster proposed the place for implementing individual initiatives of those who want to contribute. In this way, this idea was valuable for us to create several kinds of impact, and the first of the impact was social. It's very important for us because you could see in the title that our idea was creating a cluster for inclusion of internally displaced people. And today we have some we can see already the social effect, because the refugees and people who live in our region today have a new social role. They become not just guests, but they become an active player in creating a cultural environment, and not only cultural, because we demonstrate them how they can launch their startup using our cultural heritage and the knowledge about this, and help them to build partnership based on the creative cluster. So here you can see the next impact, economic, because exchange of competencies, information, and building links help to see for new residents a way of self-employment, and it's a broad effect, because not only refugees or guests can self-realize their aspirations, but promotion of the route and demonstrating that partnerships indeed work in reality also enhance the local residents and motivate them to find a way to use cultural heritage and launch their activities like craftsman or guide or a kind of organizer of art event or something like this. And policy, why we have mentioned here the policy, because for us as a central regional legislative body in the region was a surprise that we looked a little bit maybe traditionally at our cultural environment. So for the local communities, the project became a true discovery and demonstrated the value of participatory approach and research and analysis, and the ways through which we can see the situation broadly. So the policy has been changed, and we hope that this tendency will continue and will be implemented on the all levels, not only along the Via Regia route, because it's only the part of the region, but this practice will be spread on the other territories. That's all from my side. And I can stop share my screens and
thank you so very much, Victoria. We really appreciate your input. Due to time constraints of a webinar, as you can imagine, we could only invite 2 of our pilots to share their experiences with you, but we have collected all their outcomes into an exercise that we have done related to the upscaling activities, which is now going to be shared to you by our colleague Erika from Icons. So Erika, we are all ears.
Thank you very much, Lucia. I hope you can hear me and you can see the presentation. I'm
Correct.
Erika Morescu. Good. I'm a business innovation officer at Icons, and I'm very happy to be here with you today to share with you some insights that we gathered through the evaluation of the TExTOUR framework. We did this work to gather some upscaling insights and recommendations. So the main objectives of our analysis was to understand the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats that can arise when we want to further upscale, to further use the TExTOUR framework outside the boundaries of the project, only after the end of the project and outside the geographic boundaries of the project. So our idea, our main goal was to support the upscale, the replication, and the use of the project's framework. We did this by analyzing, as I said, the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats in the little pieces that compose the TExTOUR framework. So the co-design methodology, the participatory process, the business model canvas approach, the action definition process, and the business plan and marketplace approach. We did this by holding an present workshop during our last meeting in Trebinje. So we used our pilots' experiences and expertise to assess all the framework of the project. I will go through some results of the analysis. I will not go into details due to time constraints, but I will give you some general aspect that came out of the analysis. For what concerns the co-design method, we understood that its biggest strength relies on the fact that local communities will feel a very improved sense of ownership and engagement in cultural tourism activities. This will enhance collaboration, will enhance networking. Of course, it can be perceived as a theoretical approach at some point, but its huge opportunities to grow economic and professional within local communities will be shown, will show the concreteness of this approach. Of course, the co-design method involves different stakeholders and different actors. This means that visions might be different. And so the necessity to gather all these visions and put everything together can be a threat that should be managed throughout the process. For what concerns the participatory process, of course, its biggest strength relies once again in the involvement of local communities, in the enhancement of social cohesion and a huge sense of trust that will be perceived among the local communities and the stakeholders participating. Of course, this can have some weaknesses in the sense that this process can be challenging in sense of management. So an internal management for the further application and the further use of such a process must be implemented, must be considered when applying the process. But of course, this process gives a huge opportunity, which is the one of addressing the complex challenges that cultural tourism can pose through a very flexible process that can be adaptable in very different contexts and bring to very important results. Something that needs to be always considered is the participation and engagement of the different stakeholders involved. which is something sometimes challenging, as we noticed. The business model canvas approach was valued extremely flexible, and the visuality of the approach of the framework was considered very positive. Of course, it requires some details and some interpretation challenges, but it will help understanding and planning activities within the area in a very structured manner. Sometimes, and that's something that comes up when we deal with cultural tourism activities, financial and resource constraints are a barrier to development of such models, but that's something that the model itself considers. So it's something that the model itself plans and manages. The action definition process was perceived as a real goal setter and a performance manager. So this process, this approach has the potential to continue, improve, and innovate the activities within cultural tourism areas, and will bring to networking and integration within the communities, which brings always to deeper and bigger development actions and activities. Of course, here we have different stakeholders' views, different stakeholder interests, which might be competing. So a management, organizational and operational management must be, of course, considered when we carry out these kind of actions. Lastly, for the business plan and marketplace activities, it was perceived as a very valuable tool for sustain and keep the activities within the pilots with a future-oriented look. So it assures a long-term impact of the actions. The practicality and design issues were perceived as something that can be overcome because of the great opportunities that this approach gives. The threat is that there might be some challenges in strategic planning, the future outcomes, the future activities of the pilots, but that's something that when considered in time can be fairly overcome. So I would like to wrap up the strengths and the opportunities for further upscaling and further applying the TExTOUR framework. When we want to use and to upscale all these pieces of TExTOUR framework, we know that we will enhance the community through participation and collaboration. This means engage important stakeholders within local communities that can bring huge innovation and development in the areas. The local support will be enhanced, and this means that also the local trust and the local the local support will be a cornerstone for those activities. And then the TExTOUR framework can be adaptable, can be used in very different contexts. This will amplify the cultural tourism actions in very different ways. And then something that sometimes is overseen, but is something very important, is the fact that underrepresented groups can be included in this process. So the voices of every part of the local community are heard and listened to. Of course, there are some facts that must be considered, and they can pose some threats in the further upscale, in the further use of the TExTOUR framework. First of all, the fact that this framework involves a lot of stakeholders, a lot of different visions, a lot of different interests, and this can be challenging to manage. Then the fact that the stakeholders need to be interested. So you need to keep raising and maintaining their interest also after the end of the project and outside its boundaries. Then, as you all know, our pilots, some of our pilots have experienced, unfortunately, geopolitical instability, crisis, natural disasters. So that's something that is not forecastable, but that's something that can happen. So this can pose a threat to the upscale of cultural touristic activities. And then, of course, that's something that all remote areas can experience, which is the fact that there are limited resources. So the framework of TExTOUR will help them to scout for more financial support. And then to conclude, I would say that the framework of TExTOUR might be perceived as theoretical, but the concrete applications are real and are seen in our pilots. And another important fact is the fact that this framework can be adaptable and implemented in many different contexts and situations. And yes, those were the really few general remarks on our analysis, and that's all from my side.
Thank you so very much, Erika. I now have the pleasure to present all of you our keynote speaker, João Martins, leader of the TExTOUR project. You have to think that in an unprecedented situation, we were 6 cultural tourism related projects running more or less at the same time. And TExTOUR has been very important to us in defining and helping define policies. So I'm very happy to give the floor now to João Martins.
Okay, thank you very much, Lucia. I think you can hear me, correct?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So first of all, thank you very much for the invitation. It's an honor to be here. And at the same time, I would like to congratulate all the partners of the TExTOUR project for the wonderful achievements that you are being presenting today. It's really, really an honor to be here and to see such great outcomes of your project. So congratulations. I will speak a little bit about TExTOUR, but allow me to have, let's say, a disruptive presentation, and I will switch things around. So basically, I will not start by the basics and ending with the TExTOUR outcomes, but I will do the other way around. So I will start with TExTOUR outcomes, and then I will end up with the basics. So I will present the tool that was one of the main achievements of the TExTOUR, not the only one, but one of the main. And then I will go back to the title of the presentation, why do we need a healthy culture Europe? And then I'll go back to the basics of TExTOUR. Okay, having said that, let me start by saying that the TExTOUR tool was basically a tool to give recommendations to stakeholders and site managers to help them achieve, let's say, a positive impact on the cultural tourism area. So basically, it's a decision support system. It's a decision support system that gives them strategies and suggestions for actions that they should take in order to achieve the objectives that they want. At the same time, allows them to track the progress of the actions that they choose to make and to see if the actions are actually making the desired effect that they want on the evolution of cultural tourism. So basically, this is the land page of the developed tour, where you can see that they have a visualization possibility of the indicators of their site. They can input data automatically or manually, and they have this support system that suggests them about strategies and actions that they can take. At the same time, they have a graphic visualization of the outcome. So basically, they can characterize their site. While characterizing their site, they can at the same time decide what strategies they want to follow. They can choose regarding their objectives what is more important for them. For example, if they prefer cultural objectives instead of economic objectives, or if they give more importance to environmental objectives rather than social ones. So all of this selection from the pilots will help the tool, the machine learning tool, the artificial intelligence engine that we have behind, to give them an ordered list of actions that they can follow to achieve the objectives that they specify. Of course, this is a suggestion list, and they can choose the actions that they think that they are able to implement in their site. At the same time, they have a list of KPIs, key performance index, that allows them to follow the progress of the actions in terms of the evolution that they are foreseeing. And then they can, in a graphic way, they can see where they are, what are these indexes, and at the same time, they can compare with the other sites or similar sites or the average of all the pilots involved. Also, they can monitor through time the evolution of the parameters, of the KPIs, and in this way, they can actually see if the actions that they took are actually being fruitful for their objectives. Okay, coming back to the title of my presentation. So why do we need a wealthy cultural Europe? Because in my point of view, and this is something I personally learned during these 4 years of the project, is because wealthy means healthy. And why this? We all know, we all experience in the past few years, we came from an over-tourism situation to a no-tourism situation, and now we are coming back to this over-tourism situation. So basically, we are, in the past few years, we are constantly changing the landscape, the scenario that we experience in the cultural tourism sites. But don't be misled. Cultural tourism is also a problem in terms of the environment. And half of the footprint coming from cultural tourism is still coming from transportation and getting tourists from their home to their destination cultural tourism sites. Yes, my fellow countryman, Antonio Guterres, which is the head of the United Nations, is constantly alerting and pointing out that we are in a huge climatic problem. So it's very, very important that we should have this transformation and follow what the so-called regenerative pathways in order to achieve the United Nations goals. And look, from my point of view, it's not just a question of being sustainable. I think sustainable is not enough anymore. We have to be restorative and regenerative. So we have to help people in terms of their local communities to be more than sustainable, because sustainable it is not enough. So we actually have to be regenerative. And if you see on that circle there about regenerative tourism, and if you see the objectives and the points, so the first one is about local communities. So we have to have ways of our tourism to be fruitful for the local communities. We have to have new business models. We have to have inclusive business model. We have to have fruitful partnerships that actually be positive for the communities, for the local environment and the tourism destination. And actually, we did a lot of this in the TExTOUR project. This is the overall methodology that the framework that we follow in our project. And after making some research and development procedures to set up the basic scene of the project, we came to our pilots, to the TExTOUR community, which were more than just the pilot, but the pilots and all stakeholders involved around the pilots. And they help us a lot defining the methodology. Also, they also help us a lot defining the tool, checking, seeing if actually it was the way that they wanted. So I would like to highlight in our project the key role of the pilots and the TExTOUR community, because we were lucky to have a huge number of pilots, 32 in total, that actually helped us a lot defining all of these methodologies. And they were very important to define the objectives, the strategies, and the actions that are suggested in the tool. And as I told you before, then the actions that are taken can be followed by checking the evolution of the indicators and of the KPIs. So end to end, because I only have 10 minutes to speak, I would like to say that the key success factors of the TExTOUR project were basically two. First, the TExTOUR community with a high number of pilots and stakeholders involved, and then the co-creation process, because this co-creation process had a huge involvement of all the stakeholders of the TExTOUR community. And I would like to say that local communities and stakeholders were actually the key actors and the success factors for the TExTOUR project, and I believe they are essential for the success of each and every project that involves cultural tourism. Okay, this is all from my side. Thank you very much again for inviting me, and all the best for the TExTOUR project.
Thank you so much, Joao. It was a pleasure listening to you, as usual. So I think we are more or less in time. Great. So I would leave now the floor to my colleague Nicola Vuolo from ICONS, who is going to lead the question and answer sessions. So Nicola.
Thank you very much, Lucia. So here we received like quite a few questions during the webinar, but there is still time if any of you wants to add more questions, just drop them in the chat. So the first question we have is for the City Labs. So the question is, have you found the tourism interest more in the tangible or intangible heritage of your sites? So I think this question should be directed probably to Pedro for the City Labs, and maybe also Caterina can give some hint.
Okay, thank you. We are focused on both sides, tangible and intangible issues, but it depends of just put it in value depending on the City Labs. Some of them consider much more useful or much more exploitable for the future tangible issues, and others not so much. Intangible issues are only related to 2 of the 8 pilots of the 8 City Labs of the project. It depends on the City Labs in itself. What do you want to put in value? That's the answer.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Thank you, Pedro. I don't know if any other person would like to add something. Otherwise, we can go to the next question. So the second question, you were, yes. We can't hear you though. You are muted.
From the City Lab, it's much more easier to go to tangible level, because this will raise the question how to value intangible values. in discussing the communication of the tangible values. So both is hand in hand, but for the practitioners, it's much more easier to start with tangible values and to show and to motivate and to sensibilize the stakeholders for these values.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you. So, okay, we can move to the next question, which is, can we have access to that methodology to use in our areas? So I think either Caterina or even Lucia can answer this question.
Yeah, Caterina, if you allow me, yes, all our methodology is on the internet. So if you link to our project website, you can see in the resources part all the methodology that can be shared publicly there. If you see the chat, we have commented there the link to our website so that you can go there. You can also link, and this is something I would like every participant to the web to this webinar to explore also our platform. We are going to be alive until the end of September. So the platform is open once you register yourself there. If you are interested, please don't hesitate to contact us either by the website so that we can give you access and you can see all the services that Pedro has explained us, that you also have access to that. And I'm not going to say, I am going to make also a point to explore our YouTube channel where all of our interviews and also part of our methodology has been explained there. So yes, you can access that. You also have to think, those of you who are knowledgeable on the European Community Project Management platform, CEDIA, that all the European Community funded projects also share material that we have produced in CEDIA too. So there are lots of ways that you can access to our methodology. If you have problems with that, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us. We will always help you.
Thank you very much, Lucia. Yeah, then we have another question. This one is for Uwe. So did you see a significant development of tourism in your area because of the action you implemented, I think, thanks to the EU project?
I think it would not be real you should imagine the last two or 3 years we came from a corona crisis which touched us extremely heavily because across the border was closed, and we just came out of this crisis to be at the level of the general tourism at the status before 2020 2019. So in a serious way you could not prove by statistics the impact of this Horizon project, because this would be also not feasible and not just to get, okay, we have a small research project to impact in a massive way. We impact indirectly to have a discussion on structural funding in the next 5-10 years in the region for cross-border tourism and for values, this intangible values, architectural value with the value of these houses for climate protection, for example, the climate efficiency of these historic houses and storytelling like this. But statistically, no, sorry, not really.
We need more to collect more data probably in the next.
No, we don't need to, we need initiative. We need to be active and not only in one project. We need to mobilize stakeholder and TExTOUR methodology is a really multiplicator of this motivation of stakeholder cooperation, and this is the key to get to real world change.
Thank you very much. Okay, then we have another question, which is For Katerina, how do you identify potential stakeholders and how do you map them in your territory? So I think this refers to the methodology.
Yes, so different steps, different for each pilot. I think first of all, and again, like I invite whoever asks this question to have a look at the methodology where there's it's quite clearly more information. But first of all is understanding what a stakeholder is and having a more structured approach towards understanding these. So the possibility to divide them in types, public organization, private business, civic sector, mixed organization. So really kind of scoping and mapping, and facilitating the scoping and mapping through the division by types, for example, and then dividing them by field of activities. Are they working in public administration, in financial sector, into the cultural one, in research or tourism? So really asking why first you would like to involve someone, and that is important to understand why the stakeholder would like to be involved. So what are the benefits that it could get, but also what are the benefits that the project could get from involving them, right? And what are the shared goals that these stakeholders could see within TExTOUR? What are the common goals that they would like to achieve with TExTOUR, with the TExTOUR project? So it is quite a structured project that requires analysis, requires prioritization before the engagement. But yeah, those, I would say, understanding why, understanding who, also understanding when to do it, and like, you know, to get to this, how to do it. So some basic question to ask ourselves before starting this mapping exercise.
If I can also add a little bit, never hesitate to go top, bottom, and bottom up. When you have a cultural heritage in very small places, never forget about the bar owners. Bar owners, proprietors, are the people that connect all the village. So, you know, we can go very, very professional going from public institutions, private institutions, but also don't forget the less remembered, let's say, entities, which have a lot of weight in your environment, and that many of the decisions you make will fall on them. So be open-minded. Yes, go back to universities if you have the chance, to public institutions, to big enterprises if there are some in your village, but don't forget the priest of the church in your village, the bar owners, or where people normally get together. This is very important, because then you will get the support for any actions you will take over later.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lucia.
That's very important. Yeah, so we have another question. This one is from one of our scalable territories. So the Ecomuseum Zagori, and so they are already involved in the replication and upscaling process of TExTOUR. And so they are asking an interesting question that can be probably interesting also for future territories who wants to replicate our methodology, which is about the online platform. So will it be open to host also information from pilots other than TExTOUR ones? And if yes, when? So I think Pedro Pereira, this is for you.
Yes, thank you so much for the question. Probably this is the person that this morning already sent a request to have access to the platform. So for sure this will be allowed, and then each of the users of the platform can do it by themselves. They can use each of the services, and they can upload all the information by themselves. But they don't need our support for that. They can watch the video tutorials, and let's say the platform is self-sustainable, and everyone can use it. Okay, so I think this is the right answer.
Okay, So yeah, everybody will be able to use the platform and to upload like what they need for their territory, right?
Even after the end of the project, that's important to say.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a very important thing I want to like highlight, that everything we produce for TExTOUR is not gonna magically disappear when the project ends, but all the resources will be available either on the website or, as Lucia said, in Cydia and on other European platform. The ECT platform will be available. All our guidelines, everything, you can find everything. And if there is something that you cannot find, you can just drop a message to us and we will be happy to answer. Okay, so there is still time for a couple of questions. I don't know. Yes, we have another question. Gordana, yeah, from Slow Food Trebinia. So one implementers of local actions, yes. We implemented small school of gastronomy. I have no question, but I would like to emphasize that good methodology and participatory work in all phases finally brought us to the point that a lot of self-learning happened. Since we worked with 4 different target group and stakeholders, a lot of motivation came during and after the action by all to continue with similar actions. So yeah, thank you very much, Gordana. This is exactly the effect we hope to achieve with our tourism action, to inspire and to keep people going and keep building on top of what we already did. Okay, so there is a question at the end. Let's see. The climate crisis is forcing stakeholders in cultural tourism, but also in visitor industry, to change the ways in which locations and destinations rethink their offer and the ways of enjoying that offer. For example, there are countries that are already implementing visitor timings opening only in evening or late evening time only, or are deseasonalizing big time, adapting their offer and working creatively with the community. Has TExTOUR working on such aspects as well as those already mentioned? So I think maybe Caterina or Lucia can say something about these aspects like linked to tourism.
Caterina, if you allow me.
Of course, yes, please.
Basically, one of the things that I personally feel more proud of the work that has been done in TExTOUR is the flexibility. Our work process leaders have worked very thoroughly in defining a methodology and, as you can see, the platform services in such an open way that each of the pilots can tailor the solution to their own reality. That's why it's very important that every practitioner that will in future take part of the TExTOUR methodology can adapt it to their own reality. Example, I will give you an example. One of our pilots is the Coa Valley paleographic roads. When we were there, this is in Portugal. We had a meeting there at, I think, one of the worst times ever. It was mid of the summer and they were full of forest fires. So the ambiance was really very heavy. And they decided, listen, we are going to provide a visit to the site, but we are going to do it at night. I don't know if they had already done it in the past, but it was such a success that I know they have continued to do it also at night. Once because the view of the site at night was incredible, and I think all of us who were there that evening were completely flabbergasted. But also because they saw an opportunity long term. This small example is to tell you, yes, be proactive, be creative in how you use cultural tourism. Avoid, by all means, to go into something that is over tourism, that doesn't help your community nor your stakeholders, not anyone on the long term. So yes, it's not so much the methodology that will help you do that, but it's your own reality that will drive how well you will promote this cultural tourism at your site.
Thank you very much, Lucia. Okay, so we are almost running out of time. So I will say, if any of you have some question and you didn't have time to post them during the webinar, you can always reach out to us. You will find all our contacts on our website. You can follow us on social media. You can send messages, and we will be very, very happy to answer you and to get in touch with you. So Lucia, the floor is yours if you want to say one last.
Thank you, Nicola. I would like to thank everybody who participated in this webinar. I hope it is helpful for your future. Keep in touch with us. I would also like to thank all our colleagues from TExTOUR and Joao Martins for having made this webinar so successful, so well driven, so seamlessly driven. So thank you a bunch to all. And once again, don't hesitate to contact us. Thank you very much. Have a good day.